being funny doesn't mean that it's just about making jokes, especially when there's growth attached to it. It's really about connecting with your listeners so that they laugh, they stick around, and that they share your show with their friends. So today, that's what we're going to dive into. We're going to talk about how to create comedy that works and builds your audience at the same time. Hey everybody, I'm Dave from Blubrry, and today I am talking about something that I've really thought about a lot over the last 12, 13 years I've been doing podcasts, which is how do I make my shows funny and actually grow my audience at the same time? Funny doesn't mean random. The best comedy podcasts that I've listened to over the years, such as Not Another D&D Podcast or comedy interviews like the Adam Friedland Show, they still have a structure. They know their segments, their timing, and their audience. So you kind of have to think about it like stand-up. So yes, the comedian seems spontaneous, but every punchline is planned. Maybe they throw in some crowd work to change things up, but they have the skills to tie it back into their set. And if you want your podcast to be hilarious and grow, you can't just wing it, even if you are an improv king. So outline your segments, plan your bits, and leave some space for natural riffing. You got to have a little bit of a map to know where you're going. Comedy is personal, so what makes one person laugh might not make another person laugh. They might cringe instead. And that's why you need to know your audience. So ask yourself, are they into pop culture references? Do they love awkward stories? Are they nerds who appreciate smart, witty wordplay? Once you figure that out, lean into it. And, remember that inside jokes create community. So the more your listeners feel like they're in on it, they're going to keep coming back. That's your goal. That's what brings you in. I think about dropout.tv. So many good inside jokes. Sometimes people tend to get stuck when they're doing their comedy podcast. They go for laughs and forget the listener experience. Like they'll get so caught up in the conversation, and there are funny things, but they forget that the audience needs to have something to take away at the end of it other than, oh, that was just funny. So think about this. Maybe there's a surprising fact, a new perspective, or, just the joy of hearing a story told well that could then be repeated because, hey, I heard it on this podcast. This is funny. So one thing that I love about the Pete Holmes Show is when Pete talks with his guests about the afterlife. Those tend to stick with me. You get these incredibly funny comedians with these super deep, serious takes on what life means to them and what might come after. Then they sprinkle jokes in, and it just makes me chuckle every single time. Those are the kind of things that stick with your audience. So now let's talk about growing your audience. First thing I tell any podcaster, regardless of what kind of show they're doing, is consistency matters. Don't disappear for 6 weeks because comedy thrives on momentum. And if you have to take a break, do what you can to let your audience know ahead of time, or even batch record episodes that can be scheduled. Remember that clips are gold, and this is where it's nice to just have a camera on, even if the video podcasting thing isn't your format. Take your funniest 30 to 60 seconds and share them on TikTok and Instagram or Shorts, and that's going to widen the audience net. Then collaborate, invite other comedians, podcasters, or even your funniest friends. Their audience will check you out too, and that's just a great way for any podcast to grow, even if you're not doing comedy. Next, engage your listeners. Ask for their funniest stories or let them suggest topics. When people contribute, they feel invested, and it's always nice to brag to family and friends that they got featured on your show. Hey, my story was on such and such podcast. Look at me. And then they get to share it all over the place, and they're proud of that. And remember, the more places your show is available, that's going to make it easier for new fans to find you. And, with Blubrry, you don't just host your podcast. We help you grow it. We make it easier for you to distribute your show everywhere, whether that's Apple, Spotify, YouTube, so many more. Hard to keep track of. And we have certified stats so you can actually see what's landing with your audience and be sure that what you're seeing is correct and it's solid. We also give you a podcast website, so your funniest moments don't just live in the apps. You can actually keep them there, link to them. People can always come back and find it, and it makes it easier to share too. We also have flexible hosting plans, so you never have to worry about running out of space. And we make sure that your comedy gets seen and heard by as many people as possible with the power of RSS. So, at the end of the day, remember this: structure your comedy, know your audience's humor, and balance the laughs with value, and share those golden moments where people are already hanging out. At Blubrry, we'll help you take care of the rest. And if you're ready, go to blubrry.com and let's make your podcast not just funny, but unforgettable. Jump in the comments and let me know, what is the funniest podcast you've ever listened to? Or maybe your funniest comedian or funniest song.